Hello, this is Rebecca again. Today we're going to talk about adding information in your writing. But first, I want to talk a little about why we do all this practice with writing. Do you think you will ever write a PhD thesis or publish the results of your research? Maybe you will want to offer a critique of an existing theory or explain how your new device functions. Perhaps you will need to prepare the specifications for a new construction project. To do any of these well requires academic writing skills. Academic writing is based on the idea that you, the writer, will educate your reader, even if you are writing for people familiar with your field. The writer has the responsibility to make the reader's task easier. This is done by using a standard structure and organizing your ideas logically. Each idea should follow from the previous one so that the reader is never lost. There are many ways to do this, and you will learn more as your writing improves, but the simplest ways are with referencing and transition phrases. And so in this lesson today, we're going to look at some phrases for transitioning from one idea to another, and we'll look at phrases for giving an example. We will also look at how to write strong examples. To start, a transition phrase is used to move from one supporting idea to another or to add more details. All of these phrases have the general meaning of and. We have a few different groups. The first group is ones that are separated by a comma at the start of a sentence. Here's an example. University students like to study abroad to develop their language skills. Moreover, comma, it gives them a chance to live independently. All of these words, additionally, also, furthermore, in addition, moreover, what's more, this is two words, of course, some of them are two words. They can be used in the same way as this example is. A second group, starting a sentence, but followed by a noun phrase or a gender phrase. There's one example here. We start with in addition to, and I have dot, dot, dot. You can see here we just have in addition, comma, but here we're adding the to, and after that will come a noun phrase or gerund phrase. Let's look at our example. In addition to developing their language skills, here I'm using a gerund phrase because I have the ing. In addition to developing their language skills, comma, studying abroad gives university students a chance to live independently. So this is another and connection. The third type is inside a sentence. So not starting a sentence, but inside the sentence. We have the word also and the word to. University students can develop their language skills while studying abroad. They can also learn to live independently. So this is a very simple way to add an idea. If you want to use to, we put it at the end of the sentence. They can learn to live independently too. There is one transition phrase for adding information that is a little different from all the others. This one is besides. Besides is only used to add information that is less important than what was said before. So let's look at an example. When choosing where to attend university, students must consider factors such as the cost and the programs that are offered. So these are two important things that students must think about when they're choosing a university. Besides, they often want the university to be in an interesting location. The fact that we're using besides tells your readers that you believe that this information is less important than this, that the interesting location is less important than the cost and the programs that are offered. If you wanted to say that they were equally important, you would use a different word. You would say, furthermore, moreover, one of the other ones that I've already showed you. But using besides tells us that the writer understands that this is less important and wants to share that with the reader. We can also do that with besides with a noun phrase afterwards. So besides these issues, comma, the university's location is often important to students. You have besides with a comma before a sentence, or you have besides with a noun phrase or a gerund phrase. So this is a reference guide that I put together to help you have all of this information in one place. You can see that I added the besides into these two sections. This is how they are structured. So for the also, there's a lot of information here because the location of also in the sentence can change a little bit. It's used before a simple verb, like she also went. It's in the middle of a perfect verb. She has also gone. So she has gone. We put the also in the middle. And we put it after the verb be. She is also late. After the be. And after a modal. She can also go. So this is after the modal, before the main verb. And the to is always at the end of the clause or the end of the sentence. Also, the details in body paragraphs can be written as explanations or examples. Notice that I'm starting here with the word also, showing that I'm adding some information to what I've already told you. Explanations clarify a point by adding more depth. So here's an example. Many students prefer to study in groups because it helps them focus. When they study alone, they can be easily distracted and waste time. So our explanation is giving a deeper understanding of the situation. Using examples can clarify a point by giving a specific situation. So let's look at our same idea here. Many students prefer to study in groups because it helps them focus. For example, they are less likely to look at their phone or stop for a snack. So if you compare our explanation with our example, you can see that the explanation is still more abstract in how it's describing the situation, but here we are giving specific details of what could happen. They could look at their phone or stop for a snack. Both of these are ways that they might be distracted and waste time. So let's look at how to write some strong examples. To start, examples need to be specific. This makes your writing more understandable and interesting. I'm going to show you here to start. This is a transition phrase to show that we're starting some idea. And the word this here is a reference word pointing back to the idea that's here. Making specific examples makes your writing more understandable and interesting. Okay, so let's think about how we make things specific. We have a general category of people. We don't want to use people. Maybe we can be a little more specific. People in Turkey. Can you think of anything more specific than that? How about young people in Turkey or Turkish civil service workers, a certain group of people in Turkey? Another example, we have a very general idea of going abroad. How could we make that more specific? We could say going to Europe. And how could we make that even more specific? Maybe we could talk about why going to Europe. Is it taking a European holiday, or is it studying for a semester in Europe? So when you're writing, if you're using broad phrases like these, try to focus them and use more specific phrases. Here's one more example. Playing games. You think about playing games, it's a huge category of possibilities. We can narrow it to playing video games. How could we narrow it even more? Say the name of a game, playing Fortnite, or talk about a particular way that you play, playing online with people in other countries. So we always want to try to write about things in a very specific way with this type of focus. So let's look at an example. Which of these is a strong example that gives a specific situation? So we're going to look at something for the essay topic of the effects of being from a large family. And our supporting idea is about learning from our siblings. That means our brothers and sisters. So, one benefit of a large family is being able to learn from your older siblings. And you can see we have the same sentence in both places. On the left, for example, you can learn a lot of useful and important things from your older brothers and sisters. And on the right, for example, they can not only help with school topics like math, but also advise in social situations, like when you have problems with friends. So which of these do you think is a stronger example that gives specific situations? I hope you agree that the one on the right is more specific. Yes, here we have useful and important, and that is saying something different from what's being said here, but it's not making it any more specific. Next, what other phrases can be used instead of for example? Let's look at a few. Here I use next as a transition phrase to tell you that I'm going on to a different idea. So at the start of a sentence, if we want to give a long example, we can use for example, for instance, to illustrate, specifically. All of those go at the start of a sentence. University students can develop independence while studying abroad. For instance, comma, they learn how to budget their money and socialize in a foreign culture. We can also give an example in the middle of a sentence, especially if it's a short one of just a word or two, and we use the phrase such as to do this. We use this phrase after a more general noun. So, when choosing where to study abroad, most students must consider many factors, such as the cost and the programs that are offered. So we have many factors, that's our general noun, and then we say such as the cost and the programs. So we're giving a short little example in the middle of a sentence. So again, which of these is a strong example that gives a specific situation? In this case, our topic is why you shouldn't keep a wild animal as a pet. And our supporting idea is that they are expensive to feed. So wild pets, such as tigers, cost much more to feed than a normal dog or cat. To illustrate, it costs more because they want meat, which is expensive. Here's another one. Wild pets, such as tigers, cost much more to feed than a normal dog or cat. Specifically, tigers need to eat fresh meat, which can cost more than 40 lira per kilogram. This totals nearly 2,000 lira each week. So again, which one of these do you think is a stronger example that gives a specific situation? Again, it's the one on the right. For the one on the left, it would be better written as an explanation. So you can give that information, but don't act like it's an example when it's really an explanation. So instead of this, we could say, these animals require fresh meat, which is much more expensive than normal pet food. Notice here that we have a such as. We're using a general form, wild pets, and we give a specific one, such as tigers. And here, this is an example of a reference. We are referencing the tigers. Wild pets such as tigers cost much more to feed than a normal cat. These animals, this is pointing back to the tigers. So, would you like to try a couple of your own? I have some topics for you, and you can get out a pen and paper and do a little practice. For the first one, the topic is the benefits of studying alone. And the supporting idea is having better focus. Although some students like studying in groups, others insist on studying alone because they say they can focus better. For instance, can you write an ending for that sentence? The other one, why some people have poor reading skills. Supporting idea is a lack of parental role model. In some families, reading is not a common activity, so children do not develop a reading habit. For example, So if you want, pause the video and take a few minutes to write a strong example of your own for each of those topics. And then I will show you ones that I wrote. Okay, so here I'm going to show you mine for the one on the left. For instance, the solo studier can avoid social chats or long debates about ideas that distract from the work. So we're saying they avoid chats and debates, and that's a specific situation about why studying alone is better. For the other one, for example, in families where parents work long hours, there may not be much time available for reading. So we're giving a specific situation about how parents might not be a role model for their children in terms of reading. So let's look at all of these forms in a sample body paragraph. And we're going to look at a topic about why parents should limit television for their children. And the body paragraph subtopic is about its negative effects on mental development. While we read through the paragraph, see if you can find the phrases for transitioning to a new idea, for giving an example, and of course, as always, our cause-effect links. Parents should restrict their children from watching too much television because it can damage their mental development. To start, watching television is known to decrease creativity. Television is a one-way device that children cannot interact with, so they do almost no creative thinking while watching. For instance, even television shows designed for children that have songs or games to play cannot react to whether a child participates or not. Furthermore, many studies have shown that kids who do not watch television perform better on intelligence tests such as IQ tests or school placement tests. In addition to having better test scores, these children show greater critical thinking abilities, such as being able to identify facts and opinions. The research shows that they are also more likely to get into a prestigious university because of spending less time with television. Okay, so there are 3 phrases in there for transitioning to a new idea. We have furthermore, we have in addition to, and because of the to, that means that we need a phrase after it, in addition to having better test scores. For the furthermore, we have the comma right after it. And we have an also. We also have a transition signal here to start, which is showing that we are starting our first idea. For giving an example, we have for instance with the comma. We have a such as intelligence tests such as IQ or school placement. And another such as critical thinking abilities, and one example, being able to identify facts and opinions. And our cause-effect links, here we have because, followed by a sentence form. We have our comma so, also followed by a sentence form. And we have because of, and we have our gerund form after it. Hopefully by this point you are familiar and comfortable using all of these different structures. So here we are at the end, and I just want to remind you that if you need any help with writing, you should visit the website of the Independent Learning Center and click for an appointment for writing assistance.